Hello and welcome to Story Autopsy. My name is Sam and I'm going to help you become a better writer. And the only way to get better at your own storytelling is to conduct an autopsy on failed stories. So what I thought I would do today is to compare and contrast the failures of Turning Red against the successes of Toy Story. So I've got 5 areas to break it down into. We have setup, montages, plot points, faces of the crowd, and finally writer vanity. The setup of your story is where you need to introduce your character, what they want, and the world they're in. When a story starts, you're waiting for things just to form in front of you so you even have an orientation. So what happens with Turning Red is they waste time. We have this voiceover about the mother and daughter relationship, and we then have a time-wasting title sequence where Mei Mei just frolics on a roof for some reason, and then we go through the conveyor belt stuff of what the writers in the writer's room wanted you to know. It feels like a lot of stuff is happening, but we're not going anywhere. Take, for example, this kind of love interest who works in this convenience store. This guy exists as a kind of Rube Goldberg machine just to get Mei Mei and the mother to have some sort of confrontation. None of these moments really bleed together. They kind of stand out surgically. You can see where one thing ended and one thing started. There's no innate drama that's unfolding before our eyes. Look at Toy Story. We jump in the middle of a bank robbery. We understand the birthday party. We see the toys are alive. We understand Woody is the main character. He doesn't want to get replaced. But Buzz comes along. A leads to B, B leads to C, C leads to D. Turning Red by comparison, yes, that first shot is about the mother and daughter. And yes, that 13-minute mark has that confrontation. But everything in between is just kind of like a soup. Montages. Montages are busy work to give the illusion that there's been dramatic development. Toy Story has 1 montage. Turning Red has 8. And Turning Red is a longer movie by 12 minutes. I'll give you 2 examples of bad montages. The first is like a 2-minute music video of the girls monetizing Mei Mei's panda power. All this montage does is just repeat the status quo, which is the girls are making money. Another montage later on sees the girls at a birthday party, and again, it just repeats what we know. The kids are having fun. It's the cinematic equivalent of watching a screensaver on your PC. Toy Story, by comparison, has 1 montage, and it's when Buzz is replacing Woody as the favorite. The most important thing is where it appears in the movie. There's this idea called the refusal of the call. What that basically means is your main character at the start of your story will get a hint that they've got to go on a quest or a mission or an objective, whatever it is. But they don't just jump into it straight away. There's a kind of hesitation. And in that hesitation, they are coming to understand the risks at stake. And the montage in Toy Story is Woody's refusal of the call. The third thing on this list is plot points, okay, the plotting in general. To really go into detail of how Turning Red misses this mark, I would need a Nuremberg-sized trial. The girls are using Mei Mei's power to make money. Now, at one point, a school bully comes to blackmail her. They meet clandestinely. He says, if you don't use your panda power at my birthday party, I'm going to tell your mum. And that's the central conflict, right? The relationship between Mei Mei and her mum. Mum says, don't use the panda power. Something's at risk here, right? Or is it? Mei Mei then says, I'll do the panda power, but only for money. The bully says, fine, I'll pay you. Okay. Drama averted. Think about it. A character said, I want you to do X or else. The other character counters, oh, I'll do X, but only if you give me what I want. To which the other character immediately says, that's fine. So there was no blackmail. They just reached a deal. If you think I'm wrong about this, like, just explain your defense in the comments below, because I would love to hear defenders. And presumably there are a lot of defenders, given its critical success, assuming you're someone who's foolish enough to trust Rotten Tomatoes on anything. Usually about 3/4 of the way through, the main character needs to get their faith back, to finish their task, right? In Toy Story, this would be when Woody and Buzz are stuck in Sid's room, and Woody needs Buzz to kind of push that toolbox off the crate so that they can escape. But Buzz, because he's not a flying toy, is like emo. So Woody gives Buzz a pep talk. In order for Woody to convince Buzz that he is worth saving, Woody has to compare Buzz to himself. That means Woody finally admits to himself that he was the problem he was trying to overcome. Beautiful. But in Turning Red, this $1 million writing team have read a few screenwriting books and figured out that,
hey, 3/4 of the way through, someone's got to give a pep talk.
They think it's funny to use the father to give the pep talk to Mei Mei. The father has deliberately not said much up to this point. It's played for laughs. So that when he gives this pep talk, it's like, wow, he's now finally speaking. Oh my God, this must therefore mean something. But this just goes to show that a lot of the plotting is what you'd expect a story to do rather than what this story needs. But the absolute worst offender is the second act plot point. If you put it in a spec script, it'd be thrown in the bin. If you wrote it yourself, you'd be ashamed.
Get this.
The girls want to go and see this boy band. And we are told, it's made very clear, when this concert is, to the point we're actually given a specific date. Seems a little bit redundant for us to know if it's the 12th or 11th, but we are told that this concert is a week before Mei Mei's ritual to get rid of her panda power. When they finally have enough to buy a ticket for everyone or whatever, they realize they got the date of the concert wrong, and that actually the concert is going to happen on the same night as the ritual. What? It makes no sense. It's not even like one of them forgot her glasses and got the date wrong. To suddenly have this rug pull where the only way for it to work is none of the characters checked the poster that they had with them the whole time is unacceptable plotting. Faces of the crowd. Okay, so here's how it works. If you any point need to use public consensus as an obstacle for a character, you will be very deliberate about which person of that crowd is talking at any point in order to kind of tilt the emotion. We have Mr. Potato Head, the cynical doubter. We have Rex, whose hysteria is kind of used to communicate panic. And then we have Slinky Dog, who is a slinky dog. Upon seeing how cool Buzz is, Bo Peep says, I found my moving buddy. They could have picked anyone else for that moment, but they knew that of all the moments to cement that the toys had gone over to Buzz's side, they chose his love interest, because the only thing worse than getting excommunicated is getting cucked at the same time. But here's the thing about Faces of the Crowd. They can never have a meaningful character arc, right? Because by definition, they're not fully developed. They're just interchangeable facades of a function. Maybe I'm teaching you how to suck eggs, but in Turning Red, they don't seem to understand this. Mei Mei has 4 friends, which I lovingly dub Zuma Gretchen, Napoleon Dynamite, and Wario. Wah! Mei Mei has this Tamagotchi, which is set up way at the start of the movie, forgotten about for like an hour until she gives Zuma Gretchen the Tamagotchi. So that 5 minutes later, the Tamagotchi can be played off as the moment we realise, actually Zuma Gretchen still really likes Mei Mei. None of them have enough screen time to have a meaningfully developed relationship for this moment to pay off. I don't even understand why she has 4 friends. Why not just condense them into one friend? If Gretchen is going to stand out as the de facto leader, why not just have her as the singular character?
Don't teenage girls have more than one friend?
I guess they do, but who cares? If the only way for an audience to describe your supporting characters is to say, the short one is loud, the brown one is robotic,
my parents said I could go when I'm 30,
and the white one just isn't those two. You don't have a character. You have Faces of the Crowd. I don't doubt that for some Canadians, it meant the world to them to have a film set in Canada. Great, good for you. There's no real reason this film is set in Canada. Ratatouille has a reason to be set in Paris, right? Ties into this theme of fine dining and cuisine. But I know why Turning Red is set in Canada, and I know why Turning Red makes a point that it's set in Canada, because the director's Canadian. So here we have our first instance of vanity. Believing that little details like this mean anything to anyone other than the people making it. Here's a note for you young writers. The fewer details something has, the easier it is for the audience to project and to see themselves in the avatar. We don't know what state Andy is in. I guess it's not Hawaii. I guess it's not Alaska. Doesn't appear to be Iraq. What do we know about Andy's dad? Nothing. Why? Because he's not important to the story. Turning Red has this self-congratulatory vein going through it, and the telltale sign is when the hero's success is broadcast live. Now, when old Steven Spielberg was making E.T., there was never a point where in the world of that story, E.T. is broadcast on news channels. Spielberg said that in doing so, what happens to the audience is they now realize the story they were experiencing now belongs to everyone else. And every time a storyteller does this, it just feels desperate. All right, that's all I'm saying. But Toy Story adheres to the final part of the story circle as laid out in Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey book. And that is this. When the hero returns to their old world, they kind of step back into a degree of anonymity. If you've generally had a life-changing moment, if you've generally had this inner growth, you kind of keep it to yourself. Because to make a big song and dance is actually to sully the significance. So the writers of Turning Red just give me the impression they're more interested in creating history than telling a story.
I was really determined to make something different. All the key leadership on the show are women. It's completely amazing. Everything's different about this film. to have this all-women leadership team.
Toy Story did make history. It was going to be the world's first computer animated feature movie. And it was on the success of this that would determine whether or not Pixar became a player in this new industry, this new format.
To move Woody, I just move the controls. This is his elbow.
Yet, the filmmakers, despite knowing the pressure, understood that the only way to make a success of this wasn't to tell their audience about how important they were, but to focus on the story. And they did that by writing a better script. And they did that by making sure they had a good setup. They used few montages, they had good plot points, they understood the faces of the crowd, and they kept their vanity at the door. No doubt some of you want to correct me, maybe you want me to conduct an autopsy of another story. Let your voices be heard, carry on writing, and I'll see you next time.